I took care of my sick grandmother while my siblings traveled, but they left me out of the will. Hi, Reddit. I have no idea if anyone will read this all the way through, but I need to get this weight off my chest. I haven't slept well in weeks, feeling like the world screamed at me that my life was worthless. Maybe telling this will help me understand what happened, or why I still keep hoping someone will tell me it was all a misunderstanding. My name is Clara. I'm 29 years old. And what I'm about to share is, without exaggeration, the story of how my life was stolen, the most important years of my youth, and how the people who were supposed to love me the most erased me as if I had never existed. It all started when my grandmother Carmen, a woman with a strong character and the biggest heart I've ever known, began to get sick. She was my mother's mom, and after the accident that killed my parents when I was 19, she was the one who held me up. I had lived with her ever since. My siblings, Andres, 38, and Valentina, 35, took different paths. Andres moved to Miami with his wife and worked at a multinational logistics company. Valentina was the creative star of the family, a traveling photographer, a free-spirited influencer, a citizen of the world. I was the daughter who stayed. The one who cooked, who took grandma to her checkups, who learned how to use a blood pressure monitor and read medication labels.
No one asked me to.
It just happened. When grandma started showing early signs of dementia, I thought it was stress. She would forget little things. Her keys, the gas left on, where she'd put her glasses. Nothing alarming. Until one day she went out to buy milk and didn't come back for 3 hours. We found her 2 blocks away, crying, disoriented, wearing her socks over her shoes. That's when I knew something was really wrong. I went to the doctor with her. Diagnosis: progressive cognitive decline. Alzheimer's, in simple terms. I collapsed in the clinic bathroom. I came out with a smile on my face because I didn't want to scare her. She was 84. I don't want to be a burden, she told me that night. And I promised her she never would be. I told my siblings over video call. Andres said he was very busy, but that we could look into care options. Valentina was in India, taking photos for a magazine. She said she'd try to move her schedule up. She never did. Months went by. Grandma got worse. She forgot my name, mixed the present with the 1960s, sometimes talked to me like I was her sister. She had episodes of panic where she'd scream that someone wanted to kill her. Other times she couldn't walk. I became her nurse, cook, caretaker, companion, and shadow. I dropped out of college. I had been in my second semester of graphic design, my childhood dream. I paused it for a while, believing my siblings would help. Andres promised to send money every month. He did for the first 3, then disappeared. Valentina said she'd pay for a nurse as soon as she got back from Thailand. That was 2 years ago. I worked part-time at a cafe near home. My boss, Mariana, was a saint. She let me leave early if there was an emergency. But every day got harder. Grandma would fall, wet herself, cry for hours. Sometimes we stayed up all night. I dragged myself to work like a zombie, with bags under my eyes down to my jaw, and my soul in pieces. I didn't complain.
No one asked me to.
I did it out of love. That woman raised me. She hugged me when we buried my parents. She fed me when we didn't even have bread. How could I abandon her? When she got worse, I sold my computer to buy her an orthopedic mattress. Then I sold my camera. Then my bike. All for her. And still, my siblings kept sending messages like, "Thanks for taking care of her, Clarita. You're an angel, not a person. Not a woman who bled and cried in silence. An angel, as if I had no real needs. As if I didn't deserve more than empty gratitude." 3 years went by like that. 3
full years.
I lost touch with my friends. My social media turned into an album of old photos. I didn't go out. I didn't sleep. I just lived between diapers, painkillers, and the whispers of a mind that was slowly fading away in front of me. Until one night, Grandma just didn't wake up. She had a bad urinary infection, but she was on antibiotics. I took her to the hospital twice that week. The second time, the doctors said she was stable. We went home. I put her to bed, gave her medication, sang her a song she liked, an old ranchera, and she fell asleep. I knew she wouldn't wake up. I don't know how, but I felt it. When I opened my eyes in the early morning, I was still holding her hand. It was cold. She had passed peacefully, with me by her side. I called my siblings. Andres arrived 2 days later, with his wife and 2 kids. Valentina showed up the next day, smelling of expensive perfume and speaking in a spiritual tone. Grandma transcended with love, she said. They patted my back. They told me I had done a heroic job. The funeral was small. Most of her friends had already passed. A few neighbors came. Mariana, my boss too. Grandma was buried in the same cemetery where my parents lie. When the priest finished the mass, I felt empty. Like the earth had taken not just my grandmother, but everything I was. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. A few weeks later, we were called in by a notary. Turns out Grandma had left a will. I didn't know she had. I was surprised, but also relieved. I thought maybe, after everything, she had acknowledged what we'd lived together. We sat in a cold office that smelled of old papers. The notary, a bald man with thick glasses, opened a folder, cleared his throat, and began to read. The property on 38th Street, savings account no. XXXXX, the rural lot in El Limon, and all material possessions are bequeathed in equal parts to my grandchildren, Andres Gonzalez and Valentina Gonzalez. I kept waiting for my name. Eternal seconds passed. The notary closed the folder. I was still waiting. Is that all? I asked. My voice sounded hollow. The notary nodded. That's all, miss. I felt my stomach tighten. My heart pounded in my chest. I looked at Andres. He lowered his eyes. Valentina faked surprise. Are you sure there's no other clause? Nothing for Clara? She asked, like someone pretending to be upset in a school play. Nothing else, the notary repeated. They left me out of the will, after everything. After 3 years of carrying the body, mind, and soul of a sick elderly woman. After watching my youth vanish, my health deteriorate, my dreams gather dust. Not only did they not thank me, they erased me, Andres said. Maybe it was a mistake. Or maybe she thought you didn't need it, Valentina. Maybe she believed what you did was out of love, not interest. That's when I knew something was rotten. Something deeper. And that it wasn't a mistake. And I wasn't wrong. Because a few days later, Mariana, my boss, gave me an envelope with the letterhead of a law firm. Inside was a letter addressed to me, signed by my grandmother. It was from more than 3 years ago. In it, she explained that she had tried to change her will to leave me the house, but Andres and Valentina intervened. They convinced her it would be better to split everything equally, that I would understand. In the letter, she said she didn't fully agree, but she was tired, that they insisted a lot, and that she trusted I would understand her decision. She had also attached a handwritten note where she left me her jewelry, her letters, and a notebook where she had written down every recipe she had taught me. I cried for hours, not because of the money, not because of the house, because of the manipulation, the betrayal, the fact that Grandma couldn't decide for herself, knowing that my siblings not only washed their hands of it all, but schemed to leave me out. Something changed in me that day. A different kind of rage ignited.
Silent. Heavy.
Painful. Because I realized what I had lived wasn't a mistake. It was an intentional act, and I wasn't planning to stay quiet. But silence has many forms. I didn't scream. I didn't confront them right away. I didn't make legal threats. I didn't cry in front of them. But something had awakened inside me, like a bitter seed sprouting in the dark. What used to be sadness was now fire. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. The night after reading the letter, I returned to the house. My house, even if on paper it no longer was. I walked through the hallways as if every wall whispered betrayal. Every piece of furniture, every picture, every corner was steeped in history. Our history. Grandma's and mine. The laughter. The songs. The sleepless nights. The smell of hand cream and noodle soup. And now all of it legally belonged to 2 people who only appeared in photos. I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch with the recipe notebook in my hands, going through every page. It was her handwriting, shaky and sweet, like her voice in those final years. Beef empanadas like your grandpa used to love. Oatmeal cake for rainy days. My banana bread, with love for Clara. I felt the knot in my throat grow until it choked me. The next day, Valentina came to pick up a few things. I found her in the living room, going through the old china. I'm taking this. Grandma said it belonged to great-grandma, she said without meeting my eyes. I looked at her without moving. Are you going to live here? I asked. She let out a short laugh. Not for now. Andres and I are thinking of renting it. It's a lot of house for you alone, don't you think? I swallowed the bile. And what am I supposed to do? Just leave? She shrugged. She fixed her hair and took out her phone to snap a photo of the dining room lamp. I don't know, Clara. Find a place. You're an adult. You can't live clinging to grandma's skirt forever. I wanted to scream that that skirt was the one I cleaned every time her weak body couldn't hold on. That while she was posing in deserts and beaches, I was cleaning vomit off the floor, trimming ingrown nails, and changing diapers. But I said nothing. I just felt another stone pile onto my chest. "You have a week to pack," she said before leaving, like someone announcing the water's getting cut off. I sat on the floor, trembling. I had nowhere to go. Mariana offered me a place to sleep in the service room of the cafe. I considered it. But I knew that if I left without doing anything, I'd be letting them erase me completely.
No, not this time.
I started researching. I didn't have money for a lawyer, but I had time. I went to libraries, spoke with a neighbor who used to work in notarial law, searched for articles online. I wanted to know if there was a way to challenge the will. What I found wasn't encouraging. Without proof of coercion, without witnesses, without a previous will, there wasn't much to do. The letter she left me had no legal value, but it held another kind of power. I started talking to the neighbors. To Dona Teresa from the second floor, who came every Thursday to give Grandma a manicure. To Luis, the butcher who always gave her bones for broth. To Laura, the nurse who helped me when she had pneumonia. They all knew. They had all seen. They could all vouch for who was really there. And then I had an idea. If I couldn't fight for the material side of things legally, at least I could tell the truth. I decided to write everything down.
Document.
Testimonies. Photos. Timelines. My version. The real one. Valentina found out because someone, still don't know who, told her I was asking around the neighborhood. She called me, furious. "What are you doing? Playing the martyr now? I just want the truth to be known," I replied. "Don't cause a scandal. It's not worth it. It's done, Clara. Let it go." That "let it go" hit me like an insult.
As if it were a choice.
As if I had a switch to turn off everything they had broken in me. I clung to the letter. It was the only real thing I had from Grandma. The only thing that told me I hadn't imagined the love, the care, the bond. That I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed. Meanwhile, Andres sent me a friendly email with a real estate link. They wanted to sell the house. He offered me $2,000 to leave peacefully. As if my life was worth $2,000. I laughed. I laughed through tears. I laughed because I realized they truly thought they could buy my silence. But they had no idea who they were messing with. The week ended. I didn't pack. On Saturday, Valentina showed up with a locksmith. "What are you doing?" I asked. "We're here to change the lock. We've given you enough time." The locksmith, a man around 50, looked at me awkwardly. "Do you live here?" he asked.
Yes.
"And I'm the only one who's lived here for the past 10 years. He froze. "This doesn't feel right," he muttered, and refused to continue without a court order. Valentina cursed him out and slammed the door as she left. That day I knew I was going to need real help. So I went to Mariana. I told her everything. She offered me something better than a room at the cafe. She loaned me money to pay for an initial legal consultation. It wasn't much, but enough for a session with an honest lawyer. The lawyer, Mr. Samuel, was a calm-voiced man with a clear gaze. I showed him the letter, the messages, the testimonies I had collected, the photos. He listened without interrupting. "You have something," he said at last. "It won't be easy, but if you want to go all the way, I can help you." I cried. For the first time, someone validated me. We filed a formal request to challenge the will. We argued emotional manipulation and undue pressure from my siblings. We included the letter, the testimonies, even WhatsApp conversations where they admitted that Grandma had wanted to be fair but got tired of arguing. The lawsuit wasn't about taking everything from them, just recognition. I didn't want a fortune. I wanted justice. They wanted to erase me, and I wouldn't allow it. The notification arrived at their homes. The response was brutal. Andres called me, insulting me. He accused me of wanting to destroy the family out of greed. He said I was sick, that I needed therapy, that I was unbalanced. He hung up saying, "Get ready, because this is going to get ugly." And it did get ugly. Rumors started to spread. In the neighborhood, at my job, that I had mistreated Grandma, that I had taken advantage of her condition, that I never cared for her, that I was only there to manipulate her. They even made up that I sold her belongings to buy myself clothes. Mariana defended me tooth and nail, but the damage was done. People started to look at me differently. One night, someone spray painted the front door of the house. Leech. I cried in the shower, so no one would hear. But I didn't stop. Don Samuel told me these things were common. That when it comes to inheritance, people show their worst. That I had to be strong. I clung to that idea as if it were my last lifeline. The hearing was scheduled for 3 months later. Meanwhile, Andres and Valentina were pushing to have me evicted. They claimed I had no lease, that I was an unauthorized occupant. But Don Samuel filed precautionary measures to prevent them from kicking me out before the trial. And then, the unexpected happened. An elderly woman named Cecilia knocked on my door one afternoon. She introduced herself as a friend of Grandma's from her youth. She hugged me warmly and handed me an envelope. "Your grandmother asked me years ago to give you this if things got ugly." It was a copy of the original will, handwritten, dated before my siblings intervened. In it, she left the house to me. Only to me. We took it to court immediately. The evidence was strong, but the battle wasn't won. My siblings hired an expensive law firm and began to argue that the will wasn't valid, that it hadn't been notarized, that there were no witnesses. Even so, the judge admitted the document as significant evidence. The cards were on the table, but the trial hadn't started yet. And I, meanwhile, was sleeping in a house that no longer felt like mine, with the constant threat of being kicked out, and a soul torn apart by a war I never wanted to fight, but could no longer abandon. After the will surfaced, I started noticing details I had missed. Valentina, who was supposedly devastated by Grandma's death, didn't hesitate to post photos from the funeral with captions like, "Life is a beautiful cycle," and "Thank you for teaching me so much, Grandma," while posing in sunglasses with a poetic expression. She got hundreds of comments from fans calling her strong and wise. Andres, on the other hand, began coordinating from Miami the sale of the rural lot. According to him, it was best to get rid of it before it became a legal mess. I locked myself inside the house. The house where I had spent the last years watching Grandma fade away was now just a piece of real estate in processing. I got calls from the notary informing me that I had to vacate, that the property was no longer mine. It never had been, according to the documents, and that my siblings were evaluating rental or immediate sale options. My siblings, who didn't know where the kitchen light switch was, who didn't know where on the wall the photos of Mom and Dad hung, who didn't know what sound the front door made when it rained hard. Valentina showed up on a Tuesday, unannounced. She brought a couple of foreigners who wanted to see the property inside. She walked in like a tour guide. I was in my pajamas, gathering Grandma's clothes. I looked at her without saying a word. She just said, "Clary, can you give us a moment?" I locked the bedroom door. From there, I heard her describing the place. "It has a lot of natural light, ideal for artists or creative people. The garden view is magical in the mornings." She laughed. She used my pain as part of the scenery. When they left, she gave me an envelope with a business card from a real estate agency. "It's best if you find something soon," she wrote on the back. I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. It was as if my body no longer had the energy even to hate. Shortly after, a legal notice arrived. They were giving me a month to vacate the property. Andres argued that they would give me some help with the move, that he didn't want me to feel alone, but that this is just how things are, Clary. Valentina said she could help with contacts to find a cheap studio apartment. She said it like someone tossing crumbs to a pigeon. I stayed at Mariana's for a few days. She took me in without asking anything. I slept on an inflatable mattress next to the living room window, listening to the traffic. My bones ached, but at least I could sleep without fear of someone walking tourists through my living room. One morning, when I came back to collect my things, I found the house was already being painted. They had taken down the pictures, the furniture, even the rugs. Everything packed up, everything depersonalized. It looked like just another Airbnb. They didn't even tell me. Andres said on the phone that it was part of the process. Valentina said she had hired someone to do staging and improve the presentation. They left me a box with things that might be useful. Grandma's old radio, a broken mug, a stained blanket. Everything else, what I had kept with love, what had meaning, was gone. Sold, donated, or thrown away. I asked about the photo album. Andres said he didn't know. Valentina said she had it, but planned to digitize it. She never gave it back to me. I was left with a bag of clothes and a few scattered memories. I tried going back to work at the cafe, but I wasn't the same. Mariana noticed I was out of it. So did the customers. One day I forgot to turn on the coffee machine, and the line piled up. Another day, I fainted during my shift. They sent me home. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I looked for help. I went to a public systems psychologist. She saw me with a quick glance and mechanical phrases. "You need to let go, Clara. Accept what you can't change." She prescribed sleeping pills. I didn't take them. It was weeks of survival. I ate little. I slept restlessly. I'd wake up thinking I heard Grandma calling me. Sometimes I dreamed that I found her alive, sitting in her chair, saying it had all been a nightmare. But I always woke up on the inflatable mattress alone. My siblings blocked me from the family chats. I no longer received photos of my nieces and nephews, or birthday messages, or travel videos. Andres sold a lot. Valentina rented out the house to a couple of her friends for a ridiculous amount. I found out through social media. They posted a video. New home. New adventure. Thanks at Valenfree for making this possible. And in the background, I saw the kitchen where Grandma taught me how to make empanadas. Painted white, full of fake plants. I thought about suing. A lawyer told me it was difficult. That without a will in my name, and without proof of direct manipulation, there was nothing to be done. The law is clear, he repeated.
The law.
What a useless word when you have no power, no last name, no money. I tried to move on. I got a job taking care of an elderly lady. Another grandma. Another woman with empty eyes who didn't know where she was. I saw myself reflected in every corner of that house. I saw myself getting lost again. This time, without love involved. Just minimum wage and rotating shifts. Today I'm writing this from a small rented room. It has a window that faces a wall and a thin mattress on the floor. Sometimes I wonder if it was all worth it. If I should have left like they did. If I was a fool for staying. But then I remember Grandma. Her voice. Her gaze when she recognized me. Even if just for a few seconds. Her laugh when I brought her warm bread. Her hand over mine. Squeezing it in silence. That was real. Even if everything else was a farce. Even if they erased me from the will, from the family, from the story. Even if the ending wasn't fair. Even if no one ever acknowledges what I did. I know what I gave. And sometimes at night, when the world is silent, I cling to that memory like a coat. Because it's the only thing I have left.